Booyah, and it's time for the Game Sports Show, the Twin Sault's only local, regional, and national sports show. We're here inside on TV studios. You can follow the Game Sports Show on various multiple media platforms at the Game Sports Show on Facebook and Instagram, or through www.thegamesportshow.com. It's Dave McKaig, your host, and I'm here joined by my trusty colleague, my right-hand man, co-host, analyst, Alex Parr. Alex.
Right-hand man on your left side today.
Right-hand man on the left side. We have 8 eyes today, too.
Mm-hmm.
8 eyes today. We have matching glasses. We just don't have matching bow ties today.
Matching clean-shaven faces.
Oh, yeah. It's the first time that we actually have matching.
Both of us together at the same time.
Yeah, we didn't plan that. And haircut today. Did you just get a haircut, too?
No.
No, okay. Good stuff. Good talk, bro. Good talk. Going into sports, we have lots to talk about, as always, here on the Game Sports Show. You can listen to previous editions of the show through thegamesportshow.com, through thegamesportshow.podbean.com. Yesterday, we were on ESPN 1400, where myself, Scott Nason, Butch Davis, and EJ Russell covered a lot of local content as well as some professional news. So don't hesitate to check that out. But obviously, here on the Sioux Online on TV version, we always have lots to get into. And we're going to start it off with getting into some professional hockey.
Yeah, a little bit of cleaning up we need to do there. A couple housekeeping items that have come through in the waiver wire a little bit. So waiver wire trades, let's knock those out of the park first.
Yeah, we're going to start with that because especially there's some ties with Sault Ste. Marie in terms of a trade that was announced yesterday on the Game Sports Show Facebook page and through different media outlets that Brendan Perlini was traded to the Detroit Red Wings.
Coming close to home.
Coming very close to home. You know, Trevor Daley has a lot of familiarity with the Detroit Red Wings as well. You know, obviously Jeff Blashill, Sioux, Michigan. You know, there's a lot of Sioux ties from both sides of the border in Detroit. And Brendan Perlini has gotten traded from the Arizona Coyotes. He was the 12th overall pick in the draft. And then he gets traded to Chicago in that trade with Strome. And then obviously he gets traded now to the Detroit Red Wings, where he wasn't fully happy to be in Chicago and he wanted a clean slate. Now he's on Detroit where he gets that clean slate.
He's going to have ample opportunity to show if he's actually worth the 12th overall pick or not. I mean, with Detroit, look at their lineup, look at where they are in their standings. Anybody is able to jump up and make a big splash on that team.
Definitely. Now, you know what? This team is rebuilding, if you will. And I know a lot of Detroit fans may not be big fans of that, and me saying that, because they don't know what retooling or building is because 25 years of success, Alex.
Yeah, I believe it was 25 years straight making the playoffs. Like, come on, give another team a chance for once.
But you know what? I would say that Brendan Perlini is going to be put in a position where he's going to play top line minutes.
Oh, definitely.
He's going to get ice time. And I think that's the big thing that is going to be successful for Perlini in this transaction. And you know what? Comfortability, maybe being home. And listen, he's not going to be making the Stanley Cup playoffs this year. Maybe not even next year. But you have one of the best, if not the best general managers in hockey being Steve Yzerman. Okay? And at the end of the day, he is still making moves with this team.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And this is just a piece of a trade that he did. And Brendan Perlini is going to play that top 6 minutes.
Yeah, Steve Yzerman ain't done either. Long season ahead, more deals coming.
It's the funnest time to be a Detroit Red Wing GM. And
yes, I thought you were going to say fan for a second.
No. It's like when you're a GM and you get hired to do a job, you get to make this team your own, okay? And that is what Steve Yzerman gets to do. He gets to restore glory in Detroit. And it starts with a trade like this with Perlini, putting Eriksson on waivers a few weeks back, making these moves that are going to be gaining assets in the draft for draft picks or just making trades in general. You got to think some of the other veterans are going to fall in Detroit shortly as well.
Oh, yeah. The age is father time's coming quickly on a few of those guys in Detroit.
Yeah.
So,
and he's going to move them very quickly.
I think
by the deadline, I should say. Not summer. I think he's going to make a lot of moves by the deadline.
I think there's a few guys on that team that would probably like to retire Detroit Red Wing and play their final game there. A lot of guys that played on that Detroit team were there for a long time that even saw that last Stanley Cup that they got. So I think they might not even get moved because I'm not really sure how much legs they have underneath them right now, especially in trade value. So they'll probably retire Detroit Red Wing, cut their losses for this season.
Yeah, Detroit is definitely one of the toughest divisions. As I argued last Thursday on the last Thursday's podcast, that I said the Atlantic Division was the first or just behind the Central in being the terms of toughness in the NHL for divisions. I like to see what people think below, but the Atlantic, I'd like to see some debates below, whatever you think. So that's why Detroit's on the outside looking in. You may as well just rebuild, much like the direction that the Ottawa Senators have taken. More of the news in the National Hockey League, speaking of trades in particular, Duncan Keith and Brent Seabrook are players that are being mentioned in trade. Brent Seabrook obviously having a massive contract. It's going to be hard to move. Duncan Keith, who I think has a slighter edge as a defenseman in terms of talent, might attract more value from a lot of teams. But these are players that are going to be moved by Chicago as well. Another team that's trying to retool more than rebuild, I think.
Yeah, I think Duncan Keith, you're right. He definitely does have a little bit more value. I feel like his body's held up a little bit better than Brent Seabrook. The guy can still skate a little bit. His offensive prowess is still there. I mean, Brent Seabrook in his heyday was one of the best shutdown defensemen in the league.
Yep.
I'm not so sure about that. I don't think Duncan Keith is one of the top offensive defensemen in the league still either, but I think he's a little bit better at his offensive side, which is what he's been hailed at being really great at, as opposed to Brent Seabrook's defensive side. So I think that's really the only reason why Keith will probably get traded first if they really are looking to trade those two guys.
See, Duncan Keith is overall, I think, just a leader in that locker room, okay? And the main thing is when you have a team, okay, Duncan Keith is going to want to go to a contender. He's going to be that individual that puts that team over the edge, okay, to maybe be that one defenseman that they need if it's a second or third pairing. But the issue comes down to cap. So teams like Toronto, that won't be in this. So don't expect me to say that Toronto is going to be looking for this unless Chicago is eating up 100% of the contract, which is not a thing. Okay, but Duncan Keith is going to be an asset somewhere else, as will Brent Seabrook. And I can really see Brent Seabrook being a Montreal Canadian. I just think that kind of makes sense. I know the cap is very tight, though, in Montreal. Okay, but I think that would just make sense what Montreal's trying to go for. They're trying to get into the playoffs and compete in the Atlantic. I don't think Bergevin wants to settle for his team not being in the playoffs for whatever reason.
I mean, it's the same thing that the Leafs used to be doing, where they would sign these veteran guys or trade for these veteran guys just to hopefully squeak into the playoffs. That's not the way to build a team. Sure, are you going to be satisfied with getting absolutely spanked in the first round and getting eliminated because you traded for Brent Seabrook? I almost said Brent Burns there now. That would be a trade.
That would be.
But no, I don't think you should force yourself into the playoffs by making these panic moves just to bolster your team that far. I think if they aren't good enough, you just disassemble, restart from the ground up, proper rebuild.
Like that, for sure. Even Winnipeg Jets would be very interesting for either player as well.
A team that could use some more defensemen for sure.
Absolutely, they could. So I got to say, Vladimir Tarasenko.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
He is now injured.
Done.
5 months. We know how that is in Toronto. We've had some injuries and some suspensions and everything of such. Okay, but Vladimir Tarasenko, okay, is injured for the next 5 months due to shoulder surgery. How big of a loss is that for the St. Louis Blues?
Not only for the St. Louis Blues. I mean, if you are a Florida Panthers fan and you're in Florida, St. Louis is coming to town. Oh my goodness, I want to see Vladimir Tarasenko. What an absolute huge NHL superstar he is, Stanley Cup champion. He's a draw to the game that maybe your team that you're watching doesn't necessarily have. So I think that's a bigger loss for the league maybe as opposed to St. Louis. I mean, come on, St. Louis won last year. Well, they want to win
and
again.
And they were in last place when they came back to win the Stanley Cup.
And sure they want to win again, but I think they'll still be okay 5 months without Tarasenko, but here's to a speedy recovery, man.
For sure, that's definitely the case. 5 months is a long time to be out. Another piece of news, Adam Lowry gets suspended for 2 games on hitting on Oliver Killington of the Calgary Flames and the Heritage Classic. It was a pretty ferocious hit there. Okay, that is a hard hit. That's finishing your check, but when you see numbers,
you
got to hold up a little bit. If he's on the side, then I think that would have been a better hit. But we got a couple more things to get to in this first part of the show with, as always, action-packed show here on the game. Shootouts in the National Hockey League, my friend, okay? So we've talked about this on the show at length, okay, in different ways the past few years. I know Scott Nason is not a fan of the shootouts, okay? He despises the shootouts in ways, okay? When it first came into the league, the Toronto was one of the first teams a part of the shootout against the Ottawa Senators. Exactly. And you know what? When it came in, I liked it. And then it started coming in. Then it started coming in. And then it started coming in. So it's 3-on-3 for 5 minutes and a best-of-3 shootout is the current format, okay? There's been so much talk in different media outlets, and I want to say that we were one of the first to debate about it, but that might be incorrect. But I want to bring it here on the TV format. Alex, I want your opinion on the overall current OT format in the National Hockey League.
Who doesn't love 3-on-3 hockey? Oh my goodness. It's 5 minutes right now, but I think if you extended that by another 5 minutes, you wouldn't even see a shootout just because it's so back and forth with numbers going back and forth. A team's destined to break. I like what Scott has to say. Throw the shootout in the bin. As a kid, I thought it was a cool concept, but it's not really hockey. Like, do teams run practices to practice the shootout? What a dumb thing. Why not just play the game of hockey the whole way through? If you're not even going to do it in the playoffs, don't do it in the regular season. And I think they should also change the point formats. 3 points for a win, 2 points for a win in overtime, 1 point for an overtime loss.
Wow, that would really that's changing the entire.
And I think that would separate teams that are better a lot more from teams that have like 15 shootout losses or 15 overtime losses, right? Because you get that more definitive 3 points as opposed to the 2 and 1. But that may be another conversation for another time.
Definitely, but it's a good, interesting concept. Didn't even think of that.
That's how they do it internationally.
I'll say right now, I like the 10-minute overtime with 3-on-3.
5 minutes.
That is one thing that I like. You got to still have the shootout afterwards, though.
Oh, no.
Okay,
no.
and I know people are not, someone's got to walk away the winner. Okay, I'm not going to use the cliche when it comes to tying. It's not funny or appropriate to you.
Well, someone's definitely going to walk away a winner when you're 3-on-3. Like when you watch
you would think.
If you extend that overtime by 5 more minutes, you would never see a shootout.
See, I think at the end of the day, if you have I have heard one interesting concept that won't happen. Okay. But 3-on-3 for 5, then you go down to 2-on-2 for the last.
No, you can't.
I think that's crazy. Someone that told me that, I like your optimism, but that can't happen.
I would even like 4-on-4 and then drop it down to 3-on-3.
Yeah,
but I think the shootout's not a game of hockey. It's not. It's a skills competition. Save that garbage for the All-Star game. Yeah. When I want a team to prove that they are a better hockey team, I want to watch them play hockey, not have a skills comp.
I like that. Good thing to mention for sure. Now, I'll say quickly before we go to break.
Okay.
Pretender or contender? We only got a couple seconds, so I wanted you to say pretender and contender between the Buffalo Sabres and Edmonton Oilers. Now, Edmonton's lost a couple games since our first discussion on radio. Okay, but now, even if you want to update that quick, who would be your pretenders and contenders?
First place in the NHL, Buffalo Sabres. Pretenders, not making the playoffs.
Oh.
Oilers, 17 points. First in the Pacific, also not making the playoffs. You can be carried by a line for so long. And I watched that same thing happen once again with the Toronto Maple Leafs in that lockout shortened season, but it catches up to you. You can only get and take advantage of your quick legs for so long until it runs out on you. Youth is great at the beginning of the year, but grit, a little bit of experience is what's going to carry you through the long duration of the mid to the final stretch in the playoffs. And I don't think either one of those teams has it.
And we'll get to that to talk more on Thursday when we talk more about pretenders and contenders. I'll say quickly, though, Edmonton not in the playoffs. Buffalo will make the playoffs. That is my prediction as a wild card to the Buffalo Sabres. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we got more hockey on the local front here on The Game. Welcome back to the Game Sports Show. I'm Dave. He's Alex. The Glasses crew, if you will, today. Kind of threw ourselves a little nickname. You know, we had talked about the NHL and some updates and perspective on the shootouts and overtime in part 1. Here in part 2, we got the Hounds and LSSU to discuss. And then later on in the show, we're going to jump into In the Pocket. We have also local sports in terms of Thunderbirds, Eagles, Beavers, and just Algoma University to college. Then we're going to wrap up the show in the final part with the World Series. I want to make sure I get into what we're talking about the agenda, because I blew it on the first part there. Just going to say that flat out.
You even forgot the football portion of the show we're going to do too. But
yeah, and that's after this break. We got a great interview.
Yeah, 3 great interviews.
3 great interviews, so video, some good audio content there on the sidelines from the city championships for when Cora played against St. Mary's. We'll get to that in the next part of the show. So the Hounds recap this past weekend. Well, that's we're going to sum up this weekend pretty simply, okay, for the Hounds, okay? 0-3 this past weekend. Thursday, they lose to Windsor 6-4. Saturday, they lose to Flint 4-1. Then Saginaw, they lose 5-4. And that's Sunday that they lost that game. So not a successful weekend for the boys in red.
No. And for viewers of the show, listeners of the podcast, if I gave you any hope in Christian Prop, I am so sorry. This guy's play has been so abysmal. Right now, he is rocking the worst goals against average in his entire career for a season. He's an overager. How are you letting so many goals score on you? I know the Greyhounds aren't the strongest team this year, but Christian Prop, I didn't think was as bad as his stats are showing this year, but he's been... I think it might be time to end that experiment and see Taylor play a few more starts. Because honestly, I've liked Taylor, and I mean Taylor's stats are a lot similar to his stats from last year, but his team last year was much, much better. So I think that shows a little bit of improvement in there.
It does. You know what? And I thought going into this year having Prop there be kind of a good opportunity for a 1A, 1B kind of option. That was kind of the thing. And Prop had a good playoff game, I believe, last year. Was the playoff game last year? He made how many saves?
I think there was 2 games he made 50-plus saves and 2 games he made 40-plus saves. Ridiculous.
Obviously, I don't know if it's the environment or something, or it's something to do with Sault Ste. Marie in particular with that, but you have a situation there with Christian Prop, as you just alluded to, Alex, as an overager, okay, that is not doing successful. And when you have an overager on your team that you use one of those spots, if you're a rebuilding team, okay, you might be able to sacrifice a little bit of good numbers, quote unquote. But if you have a team that wants to be in the playoffs, despite if they're championship favorites or not, you want this overager to succeed and help your team get wins. And that hasn't happened. This past weekend, going 0 for 3, okay, is tough for the Hounds, okay? And they're just a game above 500, okay? They're lower in the conference right now. They're still in the playoff spot. The playoffs are today, but we're still real early, so I should be pumping the brakes on that. But at the end of the day, this is a team that has so much talent, though.
It does. The only thing, and I've said this before, is that they don't have that superstar player to break open a game, like a Barrett Hayton. Now, I don't think he's coming back. The guy's been an absolute star so far for the Coyotes. He's got 3 points in 4 games, a goal, 2 assists. Not bad for the guy. But I think the Greyhounds are going to have to cut their ties this year. I thought he would be able to carry the team a little bit more in Christian Prop, but unfortunately not.
No. And Barrett Hayton, if he does come back, we're going to say something here. Okay, actually, before I get that, I apologize. The Hounds do play this weekend, Friday and Saturday. They're hosted by Guelph and Windsor. That'll be this weekend. That's when the Hounds play. So that's, again, Friday and Saturday against Guelph and Windsor. But as you just saw on the screen there, Hayden, stats, good numbers in the NHL so far. Get an opportunity to play. He comes back to the OHL. We just saw somebody named Nick Porco get traded to Barrie. We're going to get to it in just a few seconds. But if the Hounds trade Barrett Hayton, what do they get for him?
2 first-round picks, a third-round pick, and a late, like a 7th or an 8th.
Really?
Well, I mean, with the Nick Porco trade, the guy got 2 seconds, a third, and I believe it was a later-round pick as well. And Nick Porco and Barrett Hayton are 2 very different players when it comes to where they are at their development in their careers, right? Barrett Hayton, absolute superstar. And Nick Porco, I mean, didn't get as much opportunity as he would have liked to see in Saginaw, hence why he requested the trade. So I think this is really going to tell on how talented Nick Porco is, because, I mean, they've got a loaded arsenal in Saginaw.
He did. Nick Porco gets traded to Barrie with Ian Lemieux for Dalton Durhart, 2 second-round picks, 2 thirds, and a 5th-round draft choice, as you have the Sioux Greyhounds in the background and the screen, as you're just seeing as well. So with Nick Porco going there, I'll say my prediction with Barrett Hayton, I think you're going to get, and people are going to think I'm crazy, but that's fine, 2 first-rounders, I agree.
Yeah. A
2nd-round pick, a 3rd-round pick.
Wow.
And also a roster-ready prospect.
Really?
That's how good someone will contribute for Barrett Hayton. Well, especially if his numbers are that good in the show, and he's going to come back here. He's going to go to the World Juniors if he does come back. Probably be one of the leaders on the World Juniors.
Definitely.
He's going to tear it up in the World Juniors. Okay, and when he does that, that creates business and jersey sales, which then creates more butts in the seats, which creates more money for the team, which overall, everyone's happy. You're winning games, you got a star in your team, in your lineup, and you have a chance to win an OHL championship within the lineup. And that's why people think I'm crazy, but Peterborough. I've heard people say Peterborough. For some reason, Peterborough Pete's just sticks out to me for Barrett Hayton. Played with Robinson and Ikuchin and Chesnoff. Sorry, I totally butchered that last name. SDA. We'll keep that. Who are both Leaf picks, by the way. I must mention there. I think that's a team that'd be a favorite. You guys think Sudbury might be in that realm, or even Ottawa. And I think these teams would pay that because they want to win.
Well, here's hoping that Barrett Hayton even comes back.
Exactly.
I mean, at this point right now, it's so hard to say. He's played 4 games right now, which means he's got 5 more before he burns a year on his entry-level contract. And it doesn't look like he's slowing down anytime soon. So,
and all depends, I think, on Arizona does too, a little bit.
Yeah, they don't want to rush him, right? If they're not really looking that great, they're not going to keep him there.
Do you waste that year? It's like, do you waste that year? It's like, you got to wait. Obviously, we're kind of be a little biased here on the panel and say, you know what, come back.
Yeah, please
help the Hounds, or help the Hounds at another perspective. Either way, the Barrett Hayton is doing so well in Arizona, and it's great to see for sure. And you know what, he hasn't played a lot though, but in the games he does play, he is definitely showing himself out there to be ready for some National Hockey League. If he's not there this year, he will be there next year either way.
It'll be without a doubt. Yeah, there's no way that guy's seeing a touch of ice in the AHL level before he makes it pro. Just based on the fact of how good he is right now. I mean, he's still OHL eligible, and he's still scoring at a pretty decent rate, 0.75 points per game. Small sample size, but that is a great NHL player.
And as we touched on a little bit earlier, there's a few moments ago with Nick Porco, that Porco was in the perspective of being in, who's a draft pick in the National Hockey League, obviously.
Fifth round pick by the Dallas Stars.
Yeah, exactly. And he goes to Barrie Barrie got a good load of picks and players and roster-ready players. And I think Barrett Hayton obviously has the upper hand on Nick Porco.
Yes.
Obviously, and that's no disrespect to Nick, who ties with here in Sault Ste. Marie.
Absolutely. I had him on this desk before.
There you go. And with Nick being in Barrie, he has a chance to play on a good team as well. I think Saginaw is more of a stronger team. But you know what? Having Nick Porco get added to Barrie puts Barrie in a better spot and place.
And then the nice thing about Nick Porco, too, is he doesn't have to play to get drafted. Guy's already been drafted. He's already knows that is fine. So all he's got to do is play to improve his own game and improve his team's game. And I think that's what he really wants to do. This trade, like I said earlier, he wanted a place where he can make a bit more of an impact, and Barrie will be the spot where he'll be playing first power play time, maybe even penalty kill time. He'll always be on that first or second line.
And all that ice time, the minutes are going to climb.
Right, and the best thing for a player's development, ice time.
Ice time, exactly. And that's what Dallas wants to see, too. Let me tell you, if you wanted to move, Dallas helped push the thing along a little bit there. But Nick Porco going there is definitely a trade. That's why it's interesting to see what Barrett would get if he does come back to the Hounds, if they do trade him, that is, too. Now, I'm going to quickly go into LSSU men's Lakers hockey.
Ooh.
Okay. Now, they played Notre Dame this past weekend, okay, and they lost 5-2 and 6-4. Both games were on national television, okay, and yeah, they went 0-2. They're now 2-6. And as we alluded to, they are struggles. You're losing, that is a struggle. However, this upcoming Friday and Saturday, they play the Taffy Able Arena, at 7 p.m. against Ferris State. So Ferris is a team that the Lakers are favored going into this weekend. But I'm going to throw a good little tidbit before we go to break about Lake State losing. I'm going to take my note from the show that we talked on yesterday on ESPN 1400. That they did lose they are 2-6. They did lose this past weekend. But they lose games to Denver, Michigan, and Notre Dame. Those are one of the top 3 within the top 10 in the country. Okay, if you think this team isn't good for some reason or may not bounce back, either way, they will bounce back. Okay, and when they do, people are going to say, oh, they just played some tough competition before. Yes, that is 100% the reason why. They had tough competition, and in that transition, you're making your team better. You're improving. And Lake State overall is around the area right now where they expected to be at this part of the year. It's a tough start to the season, but they were in all these games that they played, except Friday 5-2 was a little bit on the lopsided side, but at the end of the day, you're still in an area where you've improved your team. Now they're going to start getting some wins, and that's good practice, and it's good measuring stick for Lake State.
And now the schedule is a little harsh on them at the start, and it's going to look a little ugly on that record, but you want to play those games at the beginning of the season. You want to be able to see how your team goes up against the best, like you said, measuring stick. So to get those games out of the way first and maybe not coast the rest of the way, but be playing a little bit easier of competition the rest of the way, they're already battle ready. They've played the best of the best, so just come on, feed them to us. Come on, let's go.
Exactly. So as I mentioned, Lake State will play this upcoming weekend on Friday and Saturday. It's Dave, Alex, we're here on the game. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we got part 3, and it's in the pocket time. You're on the game. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the Game Sports Show. Dave, Alex, as you just saw on the screen, in the pocket time. Okay, that means football, for those of you who want to know.
Yeah, I think the footballs might have given that one away, Dave.
I think so. NFL to get into first, because we have an action-packed in the pocket and a very exclusive packed one with the Cora Colts, as obviously the Cora Colts walked away senior champions this past weekend, winning 42-3 over St. Mary's. But we're going to jump into the NFL first here, Alex. And here on the game, we talk a lot of football, especially on our Wednesday edition. And today was the trade deadline in the NFL. It's not as busy as NHL trade deadlines or even NBA trade deadlines, but we're going to make sure that we jump into a full trade deadline recap tomorrow from SportsCenter Bar and Grill. So we got to make sure that we keep everything tight here on this segment. So we're going to get into talking about last week in terms of the National Football League, technically, as the week just ended yesterday with the Pittsburgh Steelers defeating the Miami Dolphins, who now could improve to 0-7 on the season, if you will. And now we get into the upcoming week in the National Football League, going into week 9 already. The NFL season just flying by. Alex, I want to go to you first for last week's game of the week that we said was the game of the week.
Yeah, I mean,
and you and I both unanimously said the Packers and Chiefs were the game of the week. I'm going to go to you to talk about that.
Yeah, unanimously, again, I think we're going to have to pick that. Last week, that was the game of the week. What a back and forth affair. That is some prime football, and especially Aaron Rodgers. Did you see that crazy pass right in the end zone, keeps his feet in? Oh, my goodness.
That lost me fantasy, by the way.
Really?
Yeah,
well, I'm not complaining about that. The only downside, obviously, is Mahomes is injured, and who wouldn't have wanted to see that absolute shootout between Rodgers and Mahomes?
Matt Moore is doing a great job there,
fantastic.
Right?
Absolutely incredible. Matt Moore, I mean, thumbs up to you.
Former Packer.
Yeah, very true. Maybe that was a little bit of the fuel to the fire for him there. But yeah, absolute fantastic game. It's just so hard to say anything else between what a showdown.
Definitely was. It was definitely very exciting. If you were in attendance, you got the treat to a very exciting football game, and you saw a clinic put on by Aaron Rodgers just throwing the football. You, Matt Moore, doing a very good job as well. Just some unorthodox catches, as you alluded to. So the Green Bay Packers and the Chiefs were our game of the week last week, and we both decided on that. So that was a very simple decision to talk about, and it's okay that we ended up with the same game, okay? So now, given into the upcoming week in the National Football League, we do have different games here, though, for game of the week, okay? And I know you and I were kind of close on this one together. Yeah. Mine went more of a biased decision, but it has a lot of implications. That's why I went that route. But I'm going to go to you first for the game of the week.
So does mine. I'm just talking about the Packers for this whole segment, I guess. But Minnesota and the Chiefs are going at it. Minnesota's rocking a nice 6-2 record. If they win, you got some even more hot breath coming down the Packers' neck. So I'm really ready to tune in for that one.
Definitely. Now the Vikings, they have Kirk Cousins obviously at the helm there, and he's getting the job done. Thielen is expected to play this week, but is not too sure. So he's still, if you have him on fantasy, make sure you keep him on the bench. I didn't play him. Don't worry, I didn't play him. So that is your game of the week. I'm going to go to mine. Mine is the Indianapolis Colts and the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Ooh.
Now, yes, I'm taking my host hat off for a second, my fan hat. I am a Steeler fan. Okay, but I am saying right now this game has a lot of implications. The Colts are leading their division. They want to keep doing that. The Steelers are right behind the Baltimore Ravens for the division without Ben Roethlisberger, without Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell. James Conner's looking great, though, by the way. So is Juju. But either way, the Steelers are trying to keep clawing back into the division and try to take over the lead in the division, or at least tie. So they're saying there's a chance, if you will, from our last week where we had that on our screens. But the Pittsburgh Steelers are in a position where they are trying to get in the playoffs and salvage this season. So that is why I'm going with that game, because of the implications. Each week in game matters, and these outside division games matters just as much as divisional games, especially when your division is as tight as both divisions are for either the Colts or the Steelers. We're going to have more to talk about in the NFL deadline, and we're going to have more to talk about in the NFL perspective, and we're also going to talk a lot of in the local perspective on In the Pocket tomorrow from SportsCenter. But we have a lot of content right now that we're going to get to, Alex.
Yeah, we got a lot.
We got some sideline interviews. We got some exclusive content of the Cora football game and the city championships. So we're going to get right to that right now. Then we'll be right back here on the Game Sports Show. Welcome back to the Game Sports Show. David, Alex here for part 4 of tonight's edition of the Game Sports Show. And as always, action-packed edition, Alex.
Of course. It's a game sports show.
We got glasses on this panel. We got bow ties flaying to the left a little bit sometimes throughout the broadcast.
If you would have sent the memo, I would have had a bow tie too, but
I didn't. I totally hogged that spotlight. I've had this suit, actually, I'm not going to lie, not the suit, but the shirt, in my truck since last week.
Just waiting, eh?
Just waiting to use it.
Waiting with that bow tie too?
Yeah, that's probably why the bow tie is a little askew sometimes today.
It's a good combo though.
Definitely.
Put down below if you think that's a good combo.
Yeah, I like that. I don't know if it is. I imagine the love I'm going to get for this bow tie. Hopefully a lot of love. Give me likes. Now, in terms of part 4, we got local to jump into, okay? And we don't have Daniel Scarpino here on the Game Sports Show to cover Algoma University basketball in particular right now, or Algoma U Sports. So it's myself and you, Alex, getting in to talk about Algoma University. And as we touched on the show yesterday on ESPN 1400, we talked about the women's Algoma U losing 71-49 to York. So now Algoma is 0-3, and they'll play at home this weekend, taking on the University of Western Friday and Saturday, and those games are at 6 o'clock against Leach. And the University of Western's a very good basketball team, and so is Algoma University. So you got to get out and make sure you support them at the George Leach on Friday, Saturday. But also, if you're watching women's, you can watch the men's. Okay, and before I get into the men's, they defeated York 74-72, and Algoma U is now 500. 1-1. It was a very close game. It was for the Algoma Thunderbirds, and they are coming into this year with not a lot of expectations, but they got a team that can compete in the league this year. So this year it was Peter Watvega. Sorry if I'm great at pronouncing names at times. Dropped 27 points for Algoma U in their first victory of the season. So they will also take on the University of Western on Friday, Saturday at 8 o'clock. So you got the women's at 6. Men's at 8, get out to the George Leach Center and support the Algoma U Thunderbirds basketball. And now for men's Sioux College basketball, they dropped the pair at Lambden. And now Sioux College is now 1-2. And they'll host the LSSU men's junior varsity team at 8 o'clock. Very interesting matchup. When Scott jumped into that and said that, I thought that was a very interesting matchup. I think that's a good game to have that. We should have that connection on both sides of the border. You should have that. Why not? We're right there. We could skip a rock down past the bridge. You can drive over the bridge. You know what I'm saying? Why not have that kind of a matchup? Now, also, I'll mention the women's also dropped both their games, 83-44, 104-50, and a lopsided loss to Lambden. But the women will also play the Laker Junior Varsity squad at 6 o'clock on Sunday.
Now, do those games count as a regular season game?
See, I believe they count for Lake State, but I don't think they do for Algoma U. We're going to have to get that confirmed, but that's the way I understand it. Could be wrong there, but we will find out, and we'll let you know. Sioux College hockey, now we're going to jump into. Sioux College Cougars, I'm going to use this term, usually it's not professional to use, but ripped up the Oakland Golden Grizzlies.
Steamrolled.
The Grizzlies?
We'll work on it. We'll think of a better one. Okay,
a Division III club, it was 13-1. Against Golden, the Grizzlies on Saturday, then 13-5 on Sunday. Now, in the league, people are going to wonder why, okay, this is a Division III team in the ACHA. Yes, it is. But it's a part of the agreement this year with the Sioux College Cougars. I was told by one of my friends that I play hockey with, actually. I can't take credit for that news scoop. But it has that agreement where they have to play each other this year. And you know what? Despite that, the Sioux College Cougars walk away with a valuable 4 points from the weekend.
And what a way to do it. And this is what I'm worried about. Whenever you see big wins like this, I always wonder what's going to happen next. Is something terrible going to happen for the way that they just beat up on these teams? I don't know. Time will tell. But hey, hats off to the Cougars. What a team. What a program.
Ryan Venderman, Austin Rowe, Mark Tassoni, Max Cole, and Steve Cole are notable players this past weekend, obviously, with the overpowering to Oakland. They play Davenport this weekend, Saturday at 7. Then Sunday at 12, and they go into action 9-2-1.
Wow, what a turnaround! 7 and then 12, eh?
You know, that's an early turnaround. You got to make sure you get home and get some sleep, and make sure you follow your curfews. I didn't do a great job of that.
Like Dave does, yeah.
Never did. Sioux Thunderbirds lose this past weekend to losing to Rayside and to Espanola. The Thunderbirds play Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday this week. And as the Thunderbirds last weekend, they lost 3-2 to Rayside, and they lost 4-2 to Espanola. That was on Friday and last Sunday. Now they dropped. They had such success at the showcase, started showing some turnaround, and losing these 2 games. A little bit of inconsistency coming out of the Sioux Thunderbirds right now.
Yeah, I was really hoping after those showcase games where they managed to pick up a couple wins there in front of scouts on a big platform that they'd be able to carry that momentum going forward.
Yep.
Maybe the momentum's coming to a bit of a slow stop here, but long season, plenty of time ahead. They're sitting in 3rd place in their division, or their conference, excuse me. They're just fine.
They're fine. They have a very good team, do the Thunderbirds. And at the end of the day, the Thunderbirds are in a very tough division. The Eagles are a good. Blind River, Rayside, very exciting division as well. And the other division is so tight to the parity in the NLJHL is absolutely amazing. That's the best I've seen it in years. And that's kudos to Rob Mazuka and to everyone with the NLJHL for all the work they do and getting the talent here for sure. Sioux Eagles lost 2 this past weekend. They lost to Blind River and Rayside, and the Eagles play Friday against Rayside. Then Saturday they play against Kirkland at home. So that's Rayside on Friday, Kirkland on Saturday. Sunday on the road against the Beavers. Friday, Saturday, all heard on ESPN 1400. that you can hear with Scott Nason, as we touched on yesterday as well. The Blind River Beavers play Fridays, had games Friday and Saturday this past weekend, winning those games, and they play Kirkland and the Eagles this weekend. Kirkland Friday and the Eagles on Sunday. Now, the NOJHL standings I want to get to quick before we get to break. Just overall with the Northern Ontario Junior Hockey League standings. And it's a league right now, okay, as you see on the screen through the NOJHL website. Make sure you check out that website. It's a very great layout. You can see all the games, some news and articles, everything on there. You know, Powassan's just running the show in the east. And then the west, you got Blind River and Rayside. Everything's close, and everything's very close in the division, as we have the Thunderbirds highlighted there here for Sioux Ontario coverage. That league, Alex, as it says in that standings right there, it shows the parity. Obviously, you have Elliott Lake that's really on the outside looking in. But at the end, also with French River, two teams are trying to really develop their program, which it will come to. There was only about 5 or so years ago where Blind River was an 0-4 team, okay, and look where they are now. So this league is evolving, and the standings are looking just great to look at right now, see the parity in the NOJHL.
And even if those teams, like you say, aren't doing the best because they're new to the league, that's great for the league as a whole. More teams, more revenue, more people coming to watch, the bigger and better that it gets. That's it. The bigger it gets, the better it gets.
Exactly. And now the Thunderbirds, this is a year where we have not seen this out of the Thunderbirds, the record that they have. But they are starting to bounce back. And the Eagles, also, everything's starting to bounce back with the Eagles. Blind River is just looking great. And Rayside Balfour, I got my eye on David Bowen. Not because his dad's a friend of the show, not because I'm a fan of Joe Bowen, but David Bowen, not because of the name either. Should throw that out there as well.
I didn't think of that.
Just got to make sure I throw that out there. David Bowen is an exceptional goaltender, and he is a big part of this team's success in Rayside so far this year.
Absolutely.
For sure. Now, he's Alex. I'm Dave. The Glasses crew, okay, and the one half bow tie crew are going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to talk some MLB World Series. Yes, because that's still going on as the Houston Astros are one game away from winning the World Series. Don't go anywhere. You're watching the Game Sports Show. Welcome back to the Game Sports Show. Sadly, this is the last part of today's show, but hopefully you've enjoyed the entire segment of the show. I'm Dave. He's Alex.
Nothing's changed there.
Nothing has changed. Not even the outfit or hair that we've talked to way too much on the show. But we got the last part of the show. We got MLB. Tonight at 8:07. Sorry, I'm laughing because of the times. 8:07. And if there is a Game 7, well, 8:07, then if there's a Game 7, it's at 8:08.
Yeah, what's the...
So if you're not home by 8:04, okay, if you don't walk in your door by 8:04, take off your shoes, pet your dog, your cat, your hamster, whatever you got, say hi to your husband, wife, kid, you have time to still walk to your fridge, grab a beverage, and sit down and watch it by 8:08.
But if you walk in at 8:04 today, not going to cut it.
You're not going to cut it. You're going to miss the
You're
first
gonna miss.
pitch. Yeah, which means you shouldn't even watch the game. Just kidding. We got tonight on the mound Game 6, all jokes aside, at 8:07, that Houston, it goes into Game 6, battling back down 2-0 in the series. And last week, on Thursday, we talked about how the Nationals were up 2-0. Now, the tide has turned, and the Astros are up 3-2 on Washington, Alex.
And I think anything's possible because we've seen the momentum shift so greatly in this series. But there ain't going to be a Game 7. It's over tonight. That's the par guarantee right there.
The par guarantee. You know, and some individuals that are obviously seeing this live, they're going to go either against your bet, and some people may hear about this after, maybe chirping you below, Alex. How do you feel about that?
Hey, I mean, fire away. We're on the internet, right? That's what this place is for. So they're going to chirp away whether I'm right or wrong. So
I'm going to go out and say that there will be a Game 7. Okay. I have actually, and we can have Connor Henderson, who's our baseball analyst, attest that I said that Washington was making the World Series. Okay, and I did say they were playing the Astros. I said it would go 7, but I did say the Astros would win in Game 7.
So do you genuinely think that is going to a Game 7, or do you just want to be right?
I like being right, but I think it's going to. And here's why. Steven Strasburg against Justin Verlander. Okay, Justin Verlander is a legend in himself. Okay, on the mound. Okay, you know, Kate Upton's awesome herself too, who is obviously going out with Justin Verlander. Okay, so you have an overall great man in Justin Verlander, especially with being an athlete. And he's obviously won a World Series with Houston. He hasn't won in the World Series as a pitcher. And what better way than to win tonight, Game 6 at home, right, and get that win in the World Series. But you're going against Steven Strasburg, and this guy is a modern-day Nolan Ryan. Okay, Steven Strasburg is a beast. He is my favorite pitcher in baseball.
Of all time?
Can't say of all time.
Ooh.
Right now, and today playing, if I had to choose a pitcher, that's the guy I'm building my team around. The guy you just saw on your screen with that great beard, that is Steven Strasburg. That's the guy that I'm building my team around from a pitching aspect because he has a great arm, and as I mentioned, Monday Nolan Ryan, but either way, we were down for a big matchup on the mound tonight. It's going to be a low-scoring game, I think.
Right, and if it does end up going to a Game 7, a guy that I even have written down on my notes that says, will he make it back? No, guy couldn't move his neck. Max Scherzer,
yeah.
Max, give me some sugar. But Max Scherzer will be back in time for Game 7 after his wife said the guy couldn't even move his neck when he woke up the day after. So I thought he'd be written off for this series guaranteed. But I think the Nationals might be, come on. If we have to go that far, I'm glad that we got Scherzer.
Oh, they're going to have Strasburg ready for Game 7 too. Don't kid yourself. But Max Scherzer, when I was at a local facility getting ready to watch Game 5 in the Houston and Washington game, Max Scherzer out with neck spasms. Okay. Like exactly. Exactly. Like, are you kidding me right now? Okay. Like, I know he couldn't move his neck. Okay. Couldn't. I get it. Is it a show? No, I can't say it's a show because I'm just going to get reamed apart for that or maybe even lose viewers, okay? But I'm saying, come on, really? It's the playoffs.
It's the World Series.
It's the World Series. But is it a coincidence that he's hurt now until Game 7? He wasn't slated to start in Game 6 or 7. No. Okay, Strasburg was slated to start Game 6. If Strasburg had Game 5, do you think he would have had neck spasms?
I don't know if I'm fueling your conspiracy theories here, Dave.
I'm just saying. There's a reason.
Does make sense.
If Scherzer started Game 5, let's say, and Houston wins, right? You go back to Houston down 2. You got to use Scherzer in there somewhere.
Yeah.
You don't want to use him in Game 6 because you got to rest that arm. You're hoping for Game 7, sure, but wait, we're going into extra innings in Game 6. We got Max Scherzer. You are putting him in 150%. Okay, now you make Game 7. Oh, Scherzer's pitched 2 games in a row. Strasburg's already been used for the last couple days. Okay, Joe Ross has been used. Fernando Rodney is getting reamed. He's getting dingers hit left and right out of the park. Who are we going to use? Max Scherzer. You got to rest Max Scherzer. I get it. I get it. Okay, neck spasms. Yeah, I get it. I'm not calling him out, but I believe he was injured because he said that he couldn't move his neck. But how big of a coincidence is that, Alex? Am I crazy for thinking that?
No, I don't think you're crazy. I think it probably does have to go to the side of tactics a little bit, but I don't think you can really blame them. I don't think you're sitting here going, oh, that was stupid. Why would they do that?
No.
Exactly.
Smart move. But you know what? If he was injured, wow, I'm throwing myself under the bus. If he was injured, okay. If he wasn't injured and did that, okay. Either way, we respect you here on the Game Sports Show. Let us know what you think below about who you think is going to win. If it's going to be Houston tonight or Washington, and who you think is going to win the World Series if it does go to Game 7. Alex, before we go, we got 2 thumbs up in terms of thumb up each for the both of us, what to give. And I'm going to go to you first.
Okay.
I'm going to let you go first. What's your thumbs up for this week?
The first 6-star college recruit has finally been found. They were going on a scale of 1 to 5, but no. The coldest to ever do it, Crawford. His legitimate name, as this guy says, he's got to win the national championship. Give this guy the Heisman already before he even starts. Coolest name. His mom confirmed that his middle name really is to ever do it.
Coolest to ever do it, Crawford.
And I mean, I think it just cements how cool it is that the fact that he actually is the first 6-star recruit ever.
Yep.
Lots of pressure though now if they are now cementing him as the best prospect to ever play college football of all time. Maybe they gave him that extra star just because his name's so cool.
Yeah, that was my thumbs up yesterday, and I love that thumbs up for yourself. Mine, before we wrap up tonight's show.
A great one in itself.
Lindsey Vonn, PK Subban's Halloween costume getting back to Gritty. Oh, yeah. Like, I love it. Gritty, you're right. I can do better. Oh, Gritty. I wonder how he is going to respond. And let me tell you, Gritty will respond. And that is the perfect way to end the show because Halloween is on Thursday. We have a couple shows leading up to that. We have a show tomorrow from Sports Center, 9 o'clock. And myself, Jamie will be on crew there, Justin and Matt. And then on Thursday, myself, Alex, and Justin will be there as well. And I must shoot a quick tease. Brad Jacobs will be on our show next week, as we just confirmed prior to coming on as well. So we got action-packed stuff coming up for the show here inside on TV, Sioux Online, and just overall with the Game Sports Show. And you've been listening to the Twin Sioux only local, regional, and national sports show. On behalf of Alex, Dave, and the whole crew here, I want to say all of you have a great night and booyah.